Favorite AI software app?
None of them. I don't use a single one if I can avoid it. I mean, we all use it whether we want
Are
to
you
or
going
not.
to take AI from me too?
No, I'm not going to take it. But I feel like AI is, people are diving into a pond that they can't see the bottom.
Hey, this is Chaz back again with another episode of Law Have Mercy. I'm bringing back one of my favorite guests and a good friend of mine, Sarah Anderson. She owns Legally Cyber, SWA Law, LLC. She's a cyber lawyer. She's a military reservist. She's got a ton of experience. She is one of the foremost experts on cyber law in Louisiana. That's that's pretty high praise, but it is true. Sarah, thank you so much. We're going to hit TikTok. You came all this way from Baton Rouge to collect your flowers because you were right on TikTok over a year ago when you said it was going to get banned. And I'm like, well, wait a second. I don't know if that's completely accurate because it's technically not banned. And you said, hold up, wait till April. And so we're going to talk about that.
Absolutely.
We're going to shit on insurance companies.
My favorite activity.
Good. We have some in common. And we're going to talk about a lot of cool stuff. Welcome to the podcast, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Chaz. It's always so good to see you.
It is. This is, we got to visit before, and, you and I studied for the bar together. We're good friends in law school.
Neighbors.
We were neighbors.
We partied together.
Don't
gloss over that.
No.
I was with you when you met your wife.
Yes, you were. Gosh.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
And now my husband.
And your husband was in my section.
Yes. And you guys played sports together in law school. I mean, it's just it's a little incestuous, but in a good way.
It is.
And now there's 5 kids between us.
Oof.
All boys.
All boys. And that means I have 2 and you have 3, right?
Yes,
and you have twins.
Yes.
How old are your boys now?
They'll be 11 in April.
Really?
So next month, yeah.
Okay.
And then the little man will be 7 in June.
7. That's a good gap.
Yeah, he's like super tiny though. Like he's a little man. And so I feel bad for him because it feels like a 6-year age gap because he's like trying to play basketball with him and he can't even reach the 10-foot hoop.
Yeah. Are your twins the same? Do they have the same interest or are they?
They don't play all of the same sports, so that's super fun. As I told you, I was trying to get one back into soccer because his brother plays, competitive, whatever it's called today.
Yeah. Well, maybe that military training helped with logistics.
Yeah, well, we have a nanny, so that was
Oh.
Yeah, and apparently I only hire the hottest nannies.
Yeah,
I
big
can't
flex.
Figure out why I keep
flex.
doing this.
Beth and I have tried we can't keep a babysitter because we bring the kids most places.
Yeah.
And so we can't keep a sitter. We use them once every so often.
You got to do it. It's got to be an everyday thing.
It has to be an everyday thing.
Yeah, they got to know that it's a steady stream of income, just like any other job.
Yeah. But Beth is a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to justify having a nanny too. And we have a big hole in our backyard, aka a swimming pool going in too.
We just put ours in.
Oh, really? Is it done?
It's done. It's been done for about 3 months now.
Yeah. You enjoying it?
I have not been in it.
Oh.
But we have a heater.
So you are enjoying it?
Yeah. Well, we have a heater.
Okay.
Which, you getting a heater?
Yes.
Okay. Money well spent.
Okay.
The kids have been using it off and on throughout the winter.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm not getting in it because it's another babysitter. It's a very expensive babysitter.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that you just stick in the water. But when they're not in town or if our next door neighbors have a pool, so it's I feel like that's their pool is the adult pool and our pool is the kid pool.
I love it. So the first thing I want to talk about is TikTok.
Let's do it.
You came in and said, I believe you said that TikTok was going to get banned.
Yes, I did.
Because it's a Chinese owned company.
Yes.
And you scared the crap out of me because you said that anyone that has TikTok's basically going to have access to all your apps, all your passwords, all your information.
They do.
They do. I'm still holding out hope that you were wrong.
That's okay.
And then some things happened, I think, before Trump's election where it was actually banned.
Yes, because I was right.
Yeah, because you were right.
I just want to throw that out there.
You were right. And then Trump comes in, and I think it was offline for a day or 2?
Yes. You cannot re-download it right now. So it's actually, the app stores are not hosting it to my last knowledge. I haven't tried to download it. But if you have an existing account, it's still good. Which actually created a black market workaround to download it. And a lot of people actually flock to RedNote, which is another Chinese-based application that has a similar algorithm. But it is before TikTok's ban. It was like not used in the United States, and then like overnight, it had like 700,000 U.S. based
It was
users.
number one in the app downloads,
Oh
right?
yeah, it was rocking it.
Okay, so Lath, true or false? Lath told me that there was a market on eBay of cell phones with TikTok
That's
downloaded
it.
on it,
That is absolutely 100% correct.
and so people were making money
Oh yeah.
selling iPhones with TikTok on it because you
Yeah,
couldn't re-download TikTok.
bingo. And it's about to be banned again. So I think it's every time anything has a prime number in it, I like completely can't track it. So it's either like the 5th or the 7th or something like that, April, that it's going to be banned again. It's scheduled. So what happened was that it got officially banned in 2023, November of 2023, it announced the ban. And it basically says, hey, TikTok, you have, and I forget the effective date of the act itself, but it was basically like you have until January 19th of 2025 to either sell, like divest TikTok to a non-US adversary. So the US adversaries, there's 4 or 5. It is Iran, China, Russia, North Korea, and I feel like I'm missing one. So, but anyways, and that's listed in another statute in Title 10. So basically says if a app and it's not just to TikTok, and that's the big thing I want people to notice. And I also wonder sometimes if the government knows that it's not just TikTok, because TikTok's parent company,
ByteDance, yeah.
owns a bunch of other applications like CapCut, right? And so any application that is owned by them that has a certain number of users, monthly users in the US, and allows people to kind of like interact with each other. And there's other metrics to what constitutes a qualifying app, was supposed to be gone or sold to a US based entity, like real controlling interest, everything, like totally divested from its Chinese based ownership, because China is an authoritarian based government. So every single Chinese based business is subject to the authority, even if it's privately owned, of the United States. I mean, not of the United States, of the Chinese government. So that was the real concern. Even though ByteDance is private, it's subject to the control of the Chinese governmental
Because
regime.
essentially it can nationalize.
Yeah, whatever it
this-
wants to. And they do. And I mean, it's not ineffective. I mean, I wouldn't want to live there, but it's not ineffective, for the government's purpose. But my point is that like they gave them till January 19th, 2025. They did not get any movement on selling this thing because there's only so many entities that have the cash to buy it. And also, if you're China, there's no price. Like, good luck getting this out of my cold, dead hands. They had the upper hand the entire time. It doesn't get sold. Trump issues an executive order first or second day in office after the Supreme Court upheld the right to the ban. So the ban was challenged by TikTok itself because it does have a US-based organization, TikTok Inc. And they
what is it? The challenge is based on First Amendment free speech?
Yep. It's First Amendment free speech, and then whether or not that the ban was strictly construed enough to address the national security issue in front of the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court came down and said, well, one, it's federal legislation now, so it's not just a free speech regulatory issue. And also there is a compelling national security interest that is sufficiently tailored to other existing laws, like the list of foreign adversaries. And so they found it was narrow enough and it could proceed. And so the ban was going to go into effect. Trump paused it, but he only paused it for 75 days. And he also, via executive order, which depending on how you view it, may not be effective enough to trump the existing legislation. He's allowing for a US-based partner to partner with China to allow TikTok to proceed, is what he's giving 75 days for. There's been almost no news updates to see if there's been any progress on that front. I'm not sure if there will be. So as of April, it's like 5th or 7th, whatever day it is, the ban will go back into effect and it should shut down. And based on the statutory penalties that will be imposed on your internet service providers, telecom providers like Verizon, AT&T, Comcast, Cox, right? They will stop allowing access to TikTok, and which will only cause people to flock to Red Note. But technically, Red Note follows under the same law. But
They just have to challenge. They
haven't challenged it. Yeah.
Okay. So, what would possess the Trump administration to allow TikTok to have more time?
What would incentivize the administration?
Yeah.
One, that it's extremely popular with people. I think, There's been a lot of turmoil with the first 100 days of the administration. So if they want one less battle, they might extend it. If they have a legitimate contender, 75 days for a corporate transaction is not a lot of time, especially when you're probably talking about billions and billions and billions of dollars.
Billions.
And then if there was a, allied country to the United States, like a UK, an Australia, a France, or something like that, that had one of their domestic entities, domestic to them, not to us, that was interested in buying it, that might cause the administration to pause, reconsider the issue, because there's a big difference between a foreign adversarial government and an allied government. So I don't think we've seen the last of this. I don't think it negates any of the security threats. And I have a big issue with social media and children. TikTok specifically, the Massachusetts Attorney General actually sued TikTok for basically marketing an intentionally addictive and abusive product. So he's basically taking TikTok and analogizing it to smoking or crack or whatever it is, because they specifically market it to teens and kids. And given like the brain chemistry, and I'm not a neurologist, but they say they make it intentionally addictive. They uncovered actually some pretty damning internal TikTok material that, disregarded the harmful effects on children. The United States Surgeon General twice has come out and said that it's very dangerous to kids. It manipulates their brain. It also causes a lot of mental illness. And we've actually seen some deaths in children in regard to TikTok, like the blackout challenge. There was a little girl, I forget which state she was from, 13-year-old girl died from the blackout challenge, trying to black herself out and ended up strangling herself in her mother's closet. So
Wow.
there's actually been products liability actions against TikTok for similar, violence, death, just some of the stuff it incites. So, and there's been no regulation. And then there's also in the United States, the Communications Decency Act, which basically says like a Facebook and a TikTok can't be responsible for what their content creators put online, because that's free speech. So you've just got a lot of legal issues at play. But at the end of the day, regardless of how those shake out, and I'm not the Supreme Court and I'm not the Fifth Circuit, my opinion is keep your kids off of it and start to wean yourself off it, because it's either going to go away this direct way of, hey, there's technically a federal law in effect under Title VI saying bye-bye, right? And it's eventually going to get enforced, or it's only going to be damaging in one way or another to you and or your family. So I'm a big believer of like, let's step back. If you're looking for a replacement, this is in no way a, go Meta kind of thing, but Meta has a family center. A lot of states are requiring, including the state of Louisiana, which becomes effective July 1st, 2025, age verification measures before a child can join social media, and that will start to be aggressively enforced. I've heard that from Attorney General Liz Murrow herself. She's taking that very seriously, and other states are starting to enforce them all over the country.
Well, I would say, look, there's a lot to unpack
Sorry,
there.
I know it's not the most fun. Maybe I'm not a great podcast guest after all.
No, that was fantastic. But look, have you seen YouTube Reels?
Yes.
They're just as addictive.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and their algorithm is on point.
Yes.
They call it the TikTokification of social media, where it's more organic and interest based than your community or friend based.
Yes.
Okay, so the algorithms are so complex now and so smart now that they know what you want to see. And I'll be damned, TikTok nails it every time I'm on it. Right? I didn't realize I wanted to see this cover of Pearl Jam, right?
Yeah.
But it's so damn good.
I watch a lot of cake decorating on Instagram. Yeah. I don't know what my deal is, but like if someone's coloring, I'm gonna watch that.
Yeah. It's incredible. But look, my kids will get on YouTube and I delete the damn app off TV and they find a way to get back on it. And the parent controls aren't strong enough on the Samsung TV. But to me, the YouTube Reels, my kids don't mess around with TikTok, right? Because it's on our phones. My wife likes TikTok. I like TikTok. I like Instagram Reels. I think I'm pretty damn prolific on Instagram Reels and TikTok Reels from these podcast clips. But I say all that to say, look, I've learned a lot from these Reels. But YouTube, look, they can get rid of TikTok because it's a Chinese company. YouTube's doing the same thing.
YouTube is absolutely doing the same thing. However, here's the difference between YouTube and TikTok is YouTube is owned by Google, which is here. And so eventually there is reach as needed to get to them.
Yes.
And in fact, the Federal Trade Commission has made it very clear that they have no issues with issuing multi-billion-dollar fines. In 2019, they issued a $5 billion fine against Facebook and are collecting it. So that's the difference is the U.S. government and the states can eventually reach them.
Yes.
Whereas if you want to get at TikTok, you got to go through like the Hague Convention, and then you got to go before a Chinese judge.
It's
Let me tell
not.
you,
It's not going to work.
it's not going to happen.
No.
Like and you're not even going to get a visa to go over there to deal with it. Like it's just never going to work out. So that I would say is the big difference. There are ways to protect your children very easily. We allow a little bit of YouTube. But we have very strict parental controls. There's private apps that some of which are very effective that I can recommend to you if you want, and that impose time limits on individual children's devices, including your television sets, and will also filter out what they can find on YouTube and sends me an alert. So I can actually see every reel that my children have watched, and I can see everything they've searched for, and I can block it. And I will tell you, when I'm pissed, first thing I block is YouTube, quickly followed by Roblox.
Tell me, how do I protect my kids from YouTube?
I hate to plug a product that's not paying me, but I'm going to do it.
Let's do it.
All right. I mean, it's not very capitalistic of me, but there's an app called Custodio, Custodio. It's green and it's spelled wonky, but it's called Custodio, and that I feel like has been the best. Bark is a big one, but
You could put that on TV too?
Yeah, it'll pick up anything. And it just wants to know all your devices, and anything that's connected to the internet, it will shut down after a certain period of time.
Cool.
But you have to create user profiles on the TV. So your TV does have to be like of a certain age, in other words, new enough to allow it. But it will essentially shut down their access. So I get a lot of requests. I got one while we were sitting here. Mom, can I have more time? Because I set a daily limit on how long you're allowed to be on, that device.
I've seen my kids, if I block YouTube, they are so responsive and want to play in the yard and communicate. When they get in that hole,
oh yeah, they're gone.
They're gone.
Yeah, they don't talk to you. They're upstairs and they're on.
And it takes them hours to recover, days to recover.
Days to recover. I'm with you. I mean, I see it every day. And so it was interesting when the Massachusetts Attorney General basically called, social media a drug. He was primarily, maybe it's a she, I can't remember. When the AG was targeting TikTok specifically, I was like, man, there's a lot of drugs out there. Yeah. And I mean, it's bad for their brain development. It creates a pattern of, dopamine release that is not healthy for the long term. And so it is but I'm guilty because sometimes like I need a tablet. I need you to be in front of your tablet, engaged, so you can shut the hell up for a minute so I can get my shit together.
Yeah.
Like
it's the reality, right?
Yeah. But hopefully the pool will replace it at least somewhat.
Yeah. And our kids like playing outside. Our kids like playing sports. And so it's not like they're just glued to it. But once, and my oldest son, I took YouTube away from him. He said, Dad, you don't understand. I'm in 3rd grade. And if I don't play, I'm sorry, he's in 4th grade. If I'm not in YouTube, the kids at school are talking about things and I don't know what they're talking about. So that's like their TV.
Yeah.
Right. The same as water cooler talk for adults. Like they talk about these things on YouTube, and if they don't watch daytime television, right?
No, there is. I mean, I think my husband might be the only person left who watches television. We have YouTube TV, and he watches he still watches episodes of diners, drive-ins, and dives.
Flavor Town, baby.
He loves it. He's like, oh, is Guy Fieri on? And like Bar Rescue with that guy that's yelling all the
John
time.
Tapper.
Yeah, I mean, Ben's in love with him.
Shut it down.
Yeah. He loves it. I mean, he might be the last person that's watching this.
I do that, and we do Bravo. We do Southern Charm and Summer House. And
Summer House. I cut off the housewives. Like, I can only take you screaming at each other so long.
I can't. I got enough drama in my life. I don't need to hear about these yappers.
Yeah,
right?
No, I've cut out a lot of it. I've gotten really into sport docs, and like there's a new one on HBO Max about the Celtics, the Boston Celtics, which has Jason Tatum on the team.
Cool.
And so after watching the Netflix series on like basketball players, they got interested in Jason Tatum. So I'm trying to get them to sit down and watch this. So I'm looking for every sport doc I can find, and that's what I'm trying to get the kids into.
I'm in a class action consortium where we invest in class action cases.
Nice.
And video game addiction is one of the hot topics. And I'm assuming that the parent companies are American companies.
Most of them, yeah. EA Sports is a big one. Gaming law, I think, is going to be another big thing. So like right now, the last few years, everything's about cyber. It's moving into AI, which is cyber's, I want to say like first cousin by a half sibling kind of deal. Like they're so related, right? And then I think gaming is coming up next.
Yeah. My younger son, who's the more competitive one, he gets on Fortnite and he could play for 4 or 5 hours straight.
Oh yeah, we just got my oldest a gaming computer. I said he couldn't have it unless he could build it. So, and of course he got help building it. So, and he's got Fortnite now. And I will say he's into it, but like he gets so moody. He's starting to recognize that like it's infecting his mood. And he's like, I don't feel like being in a bad mood today. I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's smart.
My son has said some similar things. I said, "Hey, do you see how you act whenever you play
hmm
Fortnite?" And he said, "Yep."
I was like, you see how upset you are?
Yeah.
I'm not upset. I feel good.
Hmm.
Like, you should try it. It's awesome. Like,
What are some of the other hot topics that you're seeing now? And this is March 2025. What are you seeing in cyber law that are threats to us?
so there's a couple that, and I will say a lot. So for a while there, I would say early 2010s, a big issue was like social engineering, people falling for, the emails that are like, hey, I'm a Nigerian prince and I need to wire funds. Some of the basic ones that I get nowadays, you'd be surprised how many people in the UK want to leave me all of their assets. That's a big email I get. Like, we'd
Yeah.
love to leave you this $10 million, but you won't click on this link. So you still get some of that, like,
I've joked about it. I said, I know all my ancestors and they're all poor as shit. So
yes,
it's not
absolutely.
me.
Yeah, like I'm third generation here, man, and no one is Anglo. Like, I'm an Eastern European mutt, like with a little bit of like Middle Eastern thrown in there for fun. Like,
Right.
no one in my family has shit. Like, everyone was like trying to like grow their own vegetables and crap back in the day, and like trying to not die in the Holocaust. Like, that's my crew, right? So none of them have any money. But the big thing I'm seeing now is just it's a departure from that traditional crappy version of social engineering, which would be like your, just bargain basement garbage, which if you find someone dumb enough, like maybe they deserve it at this point, right? But then it's advancing now with the advent of AI, where the emails, the traditional phishing emails, are looking so much better, and it's large part due to the fact that artificial intelligence has removed the language barrier. So most cyber attacks actually don't come from the United States, right? There's not whole lot of cyber crime cells in the U.S. Yes, there are some, right, that are engaged, but it's more just straight up fraud. Like, speaking of the housewives, that one that went to prison, that generally is, that type of fraud. But they're coming from outside the United States. And
That was
so,
mortgage fraud, right?
no, I think she was like she was selling leads about old people and putting them in like subscriptions they could never get out of.
Which one was that? Which housewife?
Jen Shaw.
Okay. I was thinking about Teresa. I think they would
Oh,
be
she was mortgage fraud. I mean, a
mortgage.
lot of them, yeah. I mean, brushes with the law,
Yeah.
But then again, you got, what did Warren Buffett say? You got, you go down the highway with a cop behind you for 90 miles. Eventually, you're going to get a ticket,
Yep.
right? I'm not saying anyone should be tailing me for 90 miles. I will definitely get a ticket. But anyways, going back to it. So that's the new one is, and they're matching the colors. They are doing just incredible stuff. So like, one thing I saw that I teach in some of my presentations is Microsoft. A lowercase m is indistinguishable to the naked eye from a lowercase r and a lowercase n. So think about it. If I'm doing, this is a lowercase m.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay. What if I did this? How is this any different?
Looks the same.
Exactly. So what they're doing is they're finding ways to disguise the language that you're seeing, so that they can make the email look almost identical to what you would see from a legitimate email source. And they're doing it through artificial intelligence. And there's very few giveaways without the language barrier, right? They really have to mess up. So you have a situation where stuff is fooling the anti-spamware. And another thing that they're doing, which came out recently, which is just fascinating, is, sometimes someone will send you a document, and let's say they're like really old school and they sent you, a Microsoft Word document that was used with Windows 2003 or something, right? And we're on like Windows 11 now and whatever. Microsoft Word, when you go to open it, will automatically fix all the defects in its old version and open the document for you, even though technically it's a corrupted document. But because Microsoft knows that, they got a bunch of 85-year-old people still using, their old processors from back in the day, it'll even take a Word perfect document and automatically update it and adapt it in a matter of seconds to a new version of Microsoft Word so you can read the document. Well, what cybercriminals have figured out is that a corrupted document will survive anti-malware scanning for your email systems. So if you have Mailscan, Windows Defender, it's not going to catch malware that's embedded in a corrupted document because it can't read the document coming in. So people will send you something from a legitimate source because they've been what we call pwned or hacked, right? So if it's like if I get pwned or hacked today and Chaz, hey, I want you to take a look at this document I created. It's great. Can you review it and just let me know your thoughts, man? And they're using a natural language model, so it looks like something I might write, and it's coming from a legit email address. Your mail spam is not going to catch anything I've embedded in there because the document's corrupted. And you open it, and you're like, man, Sarah's using an old version of this crap. Oh, well, thank God I got, good Microsoft. It opens it up and it directs you to another site, or it has a link or a hyperlink that says, yeah, click here to read the article I was talking about. It's going to
It's funny you say that
take
because
you to that malware.
the handful of times that I've almost been hacked has been from other law firms
Yes.
sending me documents.
Yes. And a big one has been the Dropbox links. That's a huge one. And I actually fell for one because I had worked opposite this firm, closing a deal for a managed service provider client of mine. It was in a like kind of a merger of two parties. Anyways, I'd worked with this law firm, but not this attorney. So I get something that says, here's all the account information, or here's all of the file, from our last engagement together. And I'm like, oh. So I click on download the Dropbox file because I'm a professional Dropbox user, and I guess they are too, right? And I'm like, wait a second. That's not who I worked with. And this is 3 years ago. Like, I have all this. And I immediately deleted it. Of course, then I scrubbed my machine and all this other stuff. And fortunately, it all was fine. But that's another way they're getting to you is they're sending you a Dropbox link because they just need to get into someone else's email address and then they have access to, everyone in their contacts that's already been approved. So it's like why fish with a single line and a hook when you can fish with a net?
What do they do with the information that they steal?
So they do a lot of different things with it. They're doing the same thing that corporate America is doing with it, which is frightening, right? So one thing they're doing is they're studying us and our patterns, right? So one thing I tell people is like they're taking, if once they get our passwords, they're feeding it into a model along with my demographic information and saying, okay, so this basic white bitch from, suburban whatever, who's 40 years old is probably going to use some combination of her anniversary, numerical address and a kid's name or a pet's name in her password. And so they're studying those patterns so that they can better predict, what someone else's password is going to be. The next thing they're doing is they love kids. They want to make sure that they can take all of what I call the pedigree information off of our children to go ahead and ruin their credit reports. I also call it virgin PII, but then someone said that was too sexual. But like they take the pedigree information off of our kids and they'll go ahead and ruin that kid's credit report before they have a chance to do it themselves in college, right? Because who's checking their 5-year-old's credit report? Fucking nobody.
No.
No.
But based on your advice last time you came in, I actually locked both of my kids' credit
Aw,
reports.
look at you.
And I locked my own credit report.
And Beth's.
And Beth's.
Good.
And so when I went and applied for a loan on an investment property, I had to go in and unlock it. And it was very easy.
It's very easy.
You just slide a bar and it
Yeah.
unlocks it.
And you say 2 days. Just give me 2 days.
Yeah.
They just need to pull the report. I do it all the time. Yeah. So that's a big one. So they love kids stuff, right? And they'll take all of that information. Another thing they'll do with the information is they want to see what kind of medications we're on. They want to see where we're being treated, right? So they're studying us because data's power. In terms of like people being so freaked out that like, oh, they're going to get into my PayPal account. They're already in your PayPal account. Don't worry about it. It's already happened. So that's the main thing. But then the major thing is they want to use what they take from you to escalate the situation, right? So maybe I'm not interested in Chaz Roberts' law, even though Chaz Roberts' law does really well. They handle great cases. They have all this information. But I want to know who trusts Chaz Roberts. Because maybe a bigger fish than Chaz, not that you're not the biggest fish, right? But maybe somebody else in that chain trusts Chaz. Maybe a massive...
And I may be less sophisticated. May
Yeah.
not have the firewall that I have that I pay a lot of money for and et cetera, et cetera.
Money well spent, man.
Yeah.
So in a classic example of
By the
this-
way, the firewall blocks at least 10 emails a day.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's significant.
Oh, you should see them in your quarantine. You get a quarantine?
Yeah, I have a quarantine.
Yeah. Mine blocks. Some I don't even make it to the quarantine. Some are just automatically blocked. If they come from a foreign country, they're never coming in. I'll never see them. They'll never be in quarantine. They're just automatically excluded.
You wouldn't believe how many crypto transactions I have in a day. That seems to be like one of the bigger ones.
Well, that's the other thing people do is they want to get access to your machine. So if you want a CryptoJack, which is just the illegal version of crypto mining, it takes an insane amount of processing power. And so they need multiple computers doing it at the same time to crack the key to get the coin. So that's another thing they want to do. They just want to get to your machine because they want to turn it into their own little personal crypto mining
Are you
tool.
serious?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of it. It's not as scary when you break it down. And a lot of it's just financially motivated, right? Just like anybody else. But the thing that does I would say bother me the most is the fact that they are preying on what they can glean from us to get to the next provider because we are so reliant on all these services, right? And so I'm terrified that they're going to use me to somehow get to Entergy. Does Entergy trust me? Are they a client of mine? They're not a client of mine. But if they were and I had to log into something, they're using me to get to Entergy. And next thing you know, I ain't got no power. And that I'm not one of these people who hangs out during a hurricane. I'm
Mm-mm.
like, get in the car.
Let's get out of here.
We're going to Houston. We're going to wherever. I'm not hanging out. And whereas like my husband is old fashioned, he's like, I'm going to defend my property. I was like, you
Yeah.
do that, we're gone.
I'm out.
I'm out. If you want to stay here, sweat in the dark, by all means. I'm not going to stop you, but I'm not hanging out. You know.
But so in your work with your firm, are you having those conversations with these big companies, whether it's government entities or big companies,
Yes.
to protect them from those types of things?
Yes. And so it usually happens through third party vendors. So that's the other thing. It's like, who are you a vendor of that I can use your privileges as their vendor to escalate? A classic example of that is what happened to Target in, I think it was 2017.
Yeah.
Again, another prime number that just like wants to punch me in the face. Because I keep thinking 13 and 17. I told you, it's just like a dyslexia thing. But what happened with them is Target's big hack happened through a smart HVAC vendor. So they got to Target by hacking their HVAC vendor that was designed to make sure all the stores are at the same temperature, right? So that like one store is going to be at 90 degrees, another store is going to be at 67 degrees. And to cut down on their energy costs, everything stays the same. They know exactly, climate control, it's uniform. They don't have one like rogue manager sweating everybody out in his stores. And so they invested in a smart HVAC system, gave them a lot of privileges to their network, and that is how Target got hacked back in the day. So it's all about that escalation of trust, and then the vulnerabilities of your vendor are now yours as a big entity. So that's what scares me.
So what happened let's go back to talk. What happened as a result of that hacking? What did
They stole, this is back in the day when credit card numbers and stuff actually had real value, which now they're not as valuable as people think. But that was when they stole all the account information and credit card numbers of everybody who was essentially a Target Red Card member, as well as a just member of Target Savings or whatever.
And was that a million or billion type loss for
They
Target?
only lost, I think their settlement was under 20 million across multiple states, which is unheard of now. And it's only because that case
for the
then,
data breach.
Yeah,
right?
it's only because that case was hard to make in 2018. Now, everyone's more familiar with it. Judges are more sophisticated when it comes to technology lawsuits. Now it's that's a higher dollar value.
Another company locally was Acadian Ambulance.
Yes,
was
they had
hacked.
yeah.
And our buddy Scott is now working in the IT department. So
Oh, he's back at Acadian?
he's back at Acadian.
Good,
So
yeah.
he's doing general counsel stuff, but I think he was originally going back to the IT
Yeah, I
department
think they got
because
hit
of
twice in a year.
yeah, massive.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of them.
And Acadian's probably one of those companies that's a big company, but not a Fortune 500 company with the sophistication. So it's probably one that's very vulnerable.
And they're also vulnerable because they are a mobile company. In other words, every single ambulance should be treated like its own office because they all have their own internet connected devices.
Oh,
So it's a lot easier to defend one solitary location, 2 or 3 solitary locations. But when you got them on the move and they're dependent on Wi-Fi and everything,
oh man,
you got a bigger issue. That's miserable.
that's a good point.
That's like a target that's like moving constantly and changes in size.
So one of the things that people do, not only hire someone like you to help them, but
You ready to go to the insurers? Let's talk about
yeah, you hire IT guys to come in and beef up the firewalls and the systems. But then, as a prudent business owner, you say, I'm gonna purchase cyber insurance.
Yes, let's do it.
So what?
I'm like chomping at the bit here. I'm like gonna start foaming.
She's like me when I meet with a new client. And the client's trying to tell me their story, and I'm like a dog on a chain trying to make the train.
Yes.
She's like, just get the damn words out.
Let's do it. Let's do it. So
all right,
it's like a monologue. It's like Shakespearean. You ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. So
Cyber insurance.
first thing I want to say about cyber insurance is you need to have it.
Okay.
So that is the nicest thing I'm going to say here. You need to have it. However, most people just buy their cyber insurance policy, don't even look at their coverage. They don't know what they're getting. They don't know that they need to have certain things depending on the size of their business, right?
And who reads contracts, right?
Bingo. Who reads an insurance policy, let alone a contract? Insurance policy is 98 pages long.
The insurance agents don't read it.
Yeah, they usually don't know what's in it. So the first thing is they're buying crap they don't need, and they're wasting money on a policy. Like if your policy only covers if you have a privacy breach, you just wasted money. Like you don't need that. The chances of you having like a real privacy issue with the right attorney, very low, right? So it's just, you just pissed away $9,000, right? Or whatever it is. You need to have a policy that accurately reflects the number of employees you have, the locations you have, and what your coverage is like. That's the first thing. And that part's not wrong. It's just people have to step up to the plate and do their own homework. The part that ticks me off and makes me like next level irate is after an incident when they go to collect on their policy, what happens? Insurance companies have panel counsel or panel vendors, and I'm sure you're familiar with those, where they have a preferred set of vendors that they want you to use for different services that are covered under your cyber policy for different issues. Forensics, legal, consumer notifications, system rehabilitation, rebuilding, all these different things. And sometimes the insurers will own their own forensic and system rebuilding companies. And that's a huge issue for me. And it's not illegal, which pisses me off, because the first thing is they can do a crappy job and they're not incentivized to keep up with latest research and development. And they're also incentivized to keep their outgoing costs low. And if they stink at their job, who cares? They're owned by the insurer. They have a steady stream of clients, whether they're decent or not. So it removes all of those free market incentives to actually do a decent job. Also, insurance companies are not known for investing in great stuff. So if they own a company, that company is going to stagnate in an extremely dynamic environment where technology and threats change constantly. So you're going to end up basically like, instead of getting a car that has Apple Play and automatic braking and, cameras, you're going to get a 1967 Pinto. I don't even know if they made Pintos in 1967, but you're going to get some POS, Ford Tempo from 1988. You're going to get that, but you're going to be paying for, a Suburban Denali. You're paying for the Suburban, but you're getting that. And you have no idea, because it's just like, any other highly sophisticated profession like surgery. You trust your surgeon because they're a surgeon. You don't know if they suck at their job.
No.
Right? It's the same concept. So that's the first thing, wool over the eyes immediately. The next thing is panel vendors reach a pre-negotiated agreement with the insurer for their services. So the insurer knows that no matter what happens, they're probably going to only cost X amount of dollars because they pre-negotiated the rates. Well, just like there's a reason people don't want government cheese, right? Because it's pre-negotiated, it's probably crappy, and there's no incentivized to improve it. Same thing with panel vendors. Now, not all panel vendors are good. Some are really great. But for the most part, the insurance company is encouraging you to use the crappier ones because he knows they're going to be less expensive. And then the last thing, and this is on the lawyers, breach counsel should be illegal. I don't know how the American Bar Association hasn't gotten involved. They're a panel vendor just like anyone else, which means their firm reached a pre-negotiated deal with the insurance company to represent the insured. But who's their loyalty going to be? The one-off client they're going to see one time, or the insurance company that feeds them 500,000 new clients a year?
So
it's an immediate conflict of interest.
Let me analogize it to what we do.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You get in a wreck.
Yeah.
All right. State Farm is the insurance company. Mm-hmm. State Farm says you have to go to my doctors. Mm-hmm. State Farm says you have to use my lawyer.
Bingo.
Right?
Yes.
And play the rules of my game.
Yes.
Or there's no coverage.
Exactly. But here's the thing with cyber insurance, and in some part your insurance, is like every single cyber insurance provision, every single cyber insurance contract allows you to go outside of panel if you provide a justification. Well, when they're dealing with massive law firms that are providing the breach counsel that have offices in Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Dallas, right? Do you think their rates are the same as like Baton Rouge, Louisiana? No. They're not. So you're paying national level rates when your market dictates probably, 30% less in your area. And you would actually have an attorney that gives a crap about the long-term success of your business and rebuilding. And then the other thing is because breach counsel is such a big business, as more people buy cyber insurance, which is the fastest growing area in the insurance market, like the individual niche, is that they're churning out these breach counsel, like get your little CIPPUS, which is your privacy professional, and they know nothing about technology. So they don't even know enough to question these POS vendors and what they say. So when I get in, and this is a lot of my businesses, I get called by clients that hate their breach counsel and feel like they're getting the runaround, and they're being told by law enforcement, hey, you got a really big problem. This is going to be really difficult to deal with. And then they're being told by breach counsel and that panel vendor, oh, it's not that big a deal. We can just load this software and you're going to be fine. Well, the problem is you just set yourself up to have a secondary event, right? Because you didn't properly clean up the first one. And the insurance company's psyched about that, right? Because then they get to raise your premium because you already had one event. And then you're going to get hit again under the next policy, which means they raise your premium again, or they get to discontinue coverage, and they get to collect multiple deductibles from you, right? And they're using their panel vendors, so their cost stays down. So you just become this repeat victim in this crappy little cycle of premiums that constantly escalates, costs that constantly escalate on your end, but stay stagnant on the insurance company's end.
Can you collect damages for the 2 weeks your business was dead in the water?
If you have business interruption coverage, which not everyone does. So that's the other problem, is like they sell like basic default policies that cover stuff that like is either highly inexpensive to cure or is unlikely to really cause an issue.
Can you give me an insurance company to hire and one to stay away from?
No,
No, you hate them all?
it's all about your individual policy. But I have threatened a few adjusters over the years. I'm like, I had one of them try to call my client and say, you shouldn't work with her. You need to work with our panel counsel. I was like, have you heard of unintentional interference with a contract? I was like, and by the way, you're doing it down here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. You feel like getting on a fucking plane? That was the end of that conversation.
I bet. So you've probably run into it both times where people actually hired you because they had an event, and then you said, well, you got to get through this panel situation and argue that you should be the lawyer instead of the panel.
Yes.
And then some when they were actually assigned a panel attorney, and then you got to try to fight that.
Yeah, and I'll let them stick with their panel attorney. That's fine because I'll let them do their little privacy analysis, and it's, it's fast. They do it quickly. They're doing it on a pre-negotiated rate, but I keep them in their little window.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, if you want to do this one little thing, by all means, but you're not going to cut into my client's aggregate level of insurance coverage with your astronomical fees. I'll basically let you do enough to hit the deductible, and that's about it. And then I'm going to put you back on a leash and stick you in the backyard.
Do you get paid hourly or contingency?
Both, depending. So if it's an insurance issue, cyber event issue, it's all like hourly because there's no collection. I have a couple of cases that I've done on contingency where I have to actually go and sue somebody, and I don't love doing it. It's just not my blood. I'm not as talented when it comes to that as you are, Chaz. Like it's just not something I'm initially great at, but I know all of the technology and all of like the reality of the claim. So I've had some attorneys approach me that are in the plaintiff's world that are like, well, can I pay you hourly or give you a cut of the contingency? And I've done that on a few occasions. But I'm more of an hourly girl. I really like coming in post-incident or helping you. I've also consulted for companies where they're like, can you help us purchase our insurance coverage? She's like, yeah, I'd be happy to. And I'll sit there and I learn a little bit about their business. And then I look at the POS policy insurance company gave them, and I negotiate their deductibles, their premiums.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm more of an hourly girl.
And you
sounds like a prostitute. But.
No, I get it. Look, there's if people have great careers working by the hour, right? Contingency is very risky. I'm sitting on cases for 18 months, 2 years. I'm paying my overhead, paying my employees, dumping money into it. It's not for the faint of heart.
No, it's and you have to have a talent for it. You have to have a certain risk tolerance, and you have to have the right mental temperament. And I feel like if it's the right case, I can do it. But I feel like internally for me, it's a battle.
Last time you came, you were, I think, a solo practitioner. Mm-hmm. Have you expanded your team?
I have. I've expanded a lot. So I have 2 other attorneys. I keep a research assistant just from the law schools that just come in. And then I've got...
One of the benefits of being in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
Access to...
Absolutely. I'm like, you want to work for $25 an hour to figure all this crap out? Let's do it. And then I have a personal assistant / office manager, and she does everything.
Awesome.
Yeah. Like today, Ben was on duty, so he had to be at the courthouse really early. And I was driving to Lafayette, so she came in and watched the kids until the other sitter could arrive. So that part has been a game changer.
Awesome.
And hopefully expanding soon. I got a girl I really want to hire, but I don't have the office space for her, so I got to do the build out. And then I'm so risk averse. I'm like, okay, let me get some metrics for 2025 under my belt, make sure I can float your salary comfortably.
I can relate. We're kind of running out of space too.
Yeah.
So that is a reality. And luckily I have 2 people working from home, and they do very well from home, but
I got one working from home. She loves it.
Space is Bradley, as you know, one of the smartest guys we went to law school with. He works from home, and he does an incredible job. At home.
Absolutely.
And he has discipline. Is how he's always done it, and it's incredible. I'm
not messing with anyone's rhythm. I don't want to mess. Everybody's different. Everybody has different talents. Everyone has different aptitudes. If this is where you function your best, then that's where I want you.
Some people listen to music. Some people work best in a coffee shop. Some people work best in a bar. Some people work best
wherever
in
you
an
are.
Office.
Effective.
Yeah.
It's it's my business as your boss, if I am your boss, but for the most part, I just want you to be the best version of you.
Tell me about Project Greenwall.
Thank you for asking. So one of the things I run into, and I think Scott and I have actually discussed it, is there's a language barrier between the technology professionals that management and leadership of any organization hires and those technology professionals. And the problem is that management, especially financial operations, are tasked with making very important decisions that affect the technological security of their business without all of the information. And every event that I've ever spoke at, someone has asked me at the end of these events, and they'll say, well, you're a lawyer. I'm like, guilty. How did you learn all this stuff? And I was like, sink or swim method and a lot of pain and staying up nights. But it doesn't have to be that way for everyone else, and not everyone has 7 years to catch up. So I created Project Greenwall to offer corporate training or individual classes. I also do it at various events. People hire me to come in and just teach an hour to help bridge that language barrier and explain like cybersecurity basics, how to mitigate your cyber liability from an administrative perspective, not a tech perspective, admin perspective. What are the left and right limits of AI if they're considering incorporating it into their business? What are the left and right limits of social media use? That's becoming huge. We need to build a cyber incident response plan, but I don't want the techie side. I just need to know what to do. I'm like, I got you. So that is all the different types of classes that I teach. It's 8 courses in total. And I'm just trying to find a few companies to work with maybe just twice a year and be able to do this and try to expand the knowledge base. Because at the end of the day, unless you're trading in your cell phone, and I've said this a million times, unless you're trading your cell phone in for a carrier pigeon and an abacus, you're in it, right? And no one's doing it. So you need to know enough to manage your business, and that's all it is. And that's what it's for. And I try to bring some levity, some humor, a lot of pop culture references. I mean, it is not a dry class. And if you don't like bad language, I'm probably not for you.
Well, you're an excellent speaker, so I'm sure it's super entertaining.
Depending on who you are.
Real quick, we're running out of time. Favorite AI software app?
None of them. I don't use a single one if I can avoid it. No. I mean, we all use it whether we want to.
Are you
going
to take AI from me too?
No, I'm not going to take it. But I feel like AI is, people are diving into a pond that they can't see the bottom. You don't know if it's 20 feet deep. You don't know if it's 2 feet deep. So you don't know if you're going to crack your neck and ruin everything or if you're going to have a great swim. And that's where we are. And so I'm not ready to go in there. But we all use it. Like when you type in Microsoft Word and it starts that predictive text, that's AI, man. Like, so I can't say I'm not using it. Everybody's using it, but I'm not actively seeking it out.
I'm worried about the information we're putting in.
I'm not as much worried about that. I'm worried about the sanctity of the algorithm, but that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
So if you want to discuss it over the phone one day, just give me a holler.
So I had the scholarship deal, and part of the scholarship requirements was that everyone submit an essay.
Aw.
How many of those do you think were AI generated?
Oh, I'd say 50%, man. Grammarly?
I think it was closer to 95%.
That makes me sad.
Yeah. I mean, I could tell. I've worked with AI so much that I can just tell. I don't have to put in my own software. I could just tell.
Yeah, I'm not into it.
Because I know what my writing level was in high school and college, and this was a little advanced.
Yeah. Look, right. I told you I'm not into it. I don't play around with it. My kids aren't allowed to have, like, they're like, Mom, this will build this thing on AI for me for what? I'm like, no.
I've used it.
Figure it out.
I've used it some, especially with organization and task and things around here. But the best thing that I heard about AI is that it should be a passenger, not a driver. So as a lawyer, it's important that you direct it exactly what you want. And if it's going to help you, you can use it, but let it be the passenger, not the driver. And anything that it gives you, make damn sure that you have checked, double checked, triple checked, everything else, because we know that a lawyer was suspended or disciplined because of
a bunch of Fifth Circuit has a rule now that says you have to certify if you want to submit a brief that it wasn't solely crafted using AI. Yeah. AI is like AI from like a chat GPT standpoint. It's kind of like a drunk uncle. Yeah. Like they're always going to give you an answer, but they're seldom correct.
And they want to tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah, no, it's just confidence, but with a complete lack of being correct. Like anything can come out and it's probably not right. And so I just stay out of it, man. I'm not ready I get a lot of sales calls like, hey, would you let us help streamline your business? No, stay away from me. Sarah, I treat them like they got the plague.
That you just killed me. Tell everyone where we can find you. I know you're prolific on LinkedIn. That's where you do your work.
And that's where the marketing lady does work, thank God, because I'm hopeless. You can reach me at sarah@legallycyber.com and just go to legallycyber.com or projectgreenwall.com, and I am easy to find on purpose.
We'll put that in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It was great to see you.
Always a pleasure.
Yes, sir.